This episode of Dirt Church Radio is brought to you by Merrill and their new trail shoe, the Agility Peak 6. The Agility Peak 6 is a do-it-all max cushion trail runner designed to be every runner's most reliable tool, balancing comfort, stability and traction for everything from first trail runs to those 100k races. Distraction-free by design, the all-new Agility Peak 6 delivers a responsive Float Pro foam midsole, terrain-adapting Flex Connect midsole grooves, and the trusted traction of Vibram Mega Grip with traction lug outsole for a ride that keeps you focused on nothing but the run. With its dialed-in design and distraction-free performance, the Agility Peak 6 empowers trail runners to tune out the noise and lock into their flow state. Check them out at merrill.co.nz.
And they're off.
It's nearly time. We're getting closer to Tarawera, and what you should do is you should head to Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe, to grab whatever you desire, your heart desires, for the last minute nibbles, the last minute anything. Whether you are heading out to a big race or on climbing, paddling, tramping or running adventures, look no farther than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the summer. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham, Otutahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz. Rocky, can't wait to see you, mate.
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to Further Faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to Further Faster now.
Dirt Church Radio. Episode 359 of Dirt Church Radio. I'm Matt Raymond, and this week I'm flying solo. And what a treat we have lined up for you this week with my chat with La Sportiva athlete Jackson Cole, who was recently back in these parts to win the Goat Tongariro before heading back to Missoula, Montana, where he's based. Not to toot my own trumpet, but this was an excellent conversation with Jackson. We touched on his training and racing and all that stuff, but primarily on his history and his ethos, which are rooted in adventure, the joy of experience, and a love for wild mountain terrain. He spoke about valuing the simplicity of running over gadget obsession, preferring to listen to his body and embrace what the day brings him. His Snickers bar intake is frankly shocking in the best way. Interestingly, for a relatively younger athlete, Jackson takes an almost postmodernist approach to running media. Jackson's love of classic New Zealand books on running. He referenced Rod Dixon and Dick Quacks during our conversation, and the former's famous quote of wanting to drink beer and train like an animal, alongside the more recent but still relatively old by today's standards video of Anton Krupicka and Kilian Jornet running up the Grand Teton. This was an absolutely inspiring, refreshing and excellent way to kick off 2026 of interviews for Dirt Church Radio, and we'll get into my conversation with Jackson shortly, but first we better do this.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever, the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. Doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit, might just be a run around the block, something that's sung to you for some reason. Send it in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. And please, 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 please send us in your greatest run ever. The cupboard is getting a bit bare. This week, we have a greatest run ever from Natasha Hammond. And she writes, oh my God, this is a good one. I'm lucky to have been running for quite a while. I've run through 3 pregnancies with my little ones in a running stroller, and now I'm fancy free. I'm the Sydney Community Ambassador for Running Mums Australia. We're part of an amazing network of thousands of women who are elites and Olympians through to everyday mums who are just starting their running journey. I've had the chance to run in some great trail and road races, but I had an opportunity this year that really feels like the greatest run ever. I ran with the Sydney Marathon Club each month, training in the lead up to Sydney becoming the next world major marathon. It was exciting to be running around my home city each month and meeting new people each time. Some were running a marathon for the first time. At one of the events in March, they did a draw out of the participants. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to take a golden ticket into the London Marathon. I'm eyeing off competing these events towards a 7-star medal. That's, I'm guessing, each of the 7 majors in the world. London is near impossible to get into. 1.1 million people entered the ballot this year for the chance to take a fraction of places. I knew this was an opportunity I had to pounce on. I was training well and pivoted to do the London Marathon only a month later. I flew over on my own and child-free explored the bustling city, and I took in the sights and galleries. The World Major Marathon buzz is quite special. I got myself to the race expo and collected my bib. It now felt real. Ahead of the race, I went for some light training runs through the heart of London and exploring the beautiful parks. Other international runners were doing the same. Race day came along and I was a bundle of nerves. It was a heat wave and I didn't need any of the wintry gear I packed or the drop bag. I headed out to the nearest tube station. Of course it was closed, throwing my plans into disarray. With a confused look on my face, another local runner offered to help me. We formed a group and made a detour to get to the race. The logistics of getting 68,000, let that sink in, 68,000 runners to the various waves was quite a feat. After kilometres of herding, next thing I knew, I was standing in my Wave A with thousands of others waiting for the starting gun, with waves and waves of people lining behind me, and we're off, with music, screams, and pounding feet. I'm finally running this thing. The course runs through London, taking in the sights and the iconic landmarks. In the heat, thousands of people lined the streets for both sides of the entire 42.2 kilometre course. I saw people on horses, bands, DJs, punks, gospel singers, drag queens, amusing signs, and kids with lollies. It was an onslaught of sounds and energy. I reached the 5k mark and our wave merged with another. This is crazy. I shed a tear with gratitude. We weaved through Cutty-Sark, a tight curvy road with historically tall ships. A major highlight was running across the Tower Bridge. It was an iconic place that reminded me of when we ran across the Harbour Bridge. It was getting to be really hot now. People were starting to faint and collapse. I was running for a time goal, but I had to slow it down. I didn't want to end up in hospital in a foreign country on my own. Taking the pressure off a bit made it more enjoyable. When I ran towards Big Ben, I gasped and sped up. Only 2 more roads to get to the finish line. The race heads past Buckingham Palace along a leafy tree-lined avenue. The crowds had swelled and I was having some good old runner's high. We did the last turn down the Mall. I reached the finish line. I shed a few tears as a lady put the heavy gold medal around my neck. I did it. Another world major completed. I was wrapped in a bit of foil as I cooled down and collected some refreshments. It was a slow hobbling walk out of the finish chute area towards the city centre. Supportive strangers gave me a cheer, a pat on the back, and some clapping. Londoners went out of their way to support this race. Runners were welcomed into pubs and given a free beer. We shared our race stories and where we were from. The atmosphere was amazing, and it was the best way to see a big city and do something epic. Thanks, Natasha. That was awesome. And please, as I said at the top, send in your greatest run ever, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. We're getting a bit bare and we would love to hear your stories. It's been 7 years of greatest run ever and we don't want the streak to stop. Please, please, please send us in your greatest runs ever. Send them into dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. We love reading them. People love reading them. People love listening to them. And when I say reading them, that's not a typo. You can read them on the website. We've been doing this for 7 years, going on 8, and we've never missed a week. So send them in, team. There must be some of you having greatest runs ever out there as we speak. This episode is brought to you by Merrill and the new Agility Peak Trail Running Shoe. Look, you heard the tech specs at the top. I've been running a bunch in this shoe and yeah, distraction free is right. I really like it. The outsole is awesome. I love the rock plate as I was skittering down some loose rocky descents yesterday, and it's comfortable and responsive. I'm looking forward to stacking up a bunch more Ks in the Agility Peak 6 over the summer. Merrill, not just your crunchy uncle's aqua sandals anymore.
Church Radio.
Right, let's get into our conversation with the mighty Jackson Cole. Jackson Cole, all the way from Missoula, Montana. Welcome to Dirt Church Radio. Kia ora, bro. How you doing?
Kia ora. Thanks for having me, mate. It's good to talk with the Kiwi.
Yeah, no, thanks for. Well, you've had your fill. You've been home for the summer. How's that been?
Yeah. I was in Wellington and part of the South Island for the better part of a month. So it was good to be there for Christmas and New Year's, and it's a good time to be back in New Zealand because everyone's sort of laying low, wanting to catch up. So it was awesome. It was a good time to be home.
We just talked off mic that the time difference in this from here to Montana isn't too punishing, although it's quite a big one. But the temperature differential must be a little bit punishing.
Yeah. I think I went for I went for a bike ride the other day and it was maybe 1 or 2 degrees and the roads are full of ice. There's not too much snow here at the moment, but it is cold. So not to say that it wasn't the warmest January in New Zealand either. So it wasn't too bad. Yeah.
But you're saying 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Celsius. So it was
Oh, all right.
30 degrees, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah.
Wow, but you're right. I understand that it gets a lot colder over there. So, how was your trip to? I mean, let's start off with your most recent accomplishment. How was the goat for you this year?
The goat was awesome. I'd heard about it when I met a bunch of my Kiwi teammates at the World Champs in Spain last year, and out of all the races, they were saying that the goat was one that I had to do because it was super technical, a pretty iconic race that a lot of them had run before. Maya Flint was on that team and Ryan Carr, and they were talking it up, and they said, if you're there in January, you've got to do the goat. And I also had an uncle and aunt who had run the goat many times, and they had mentioned it as this awesome race. So in my mind, it was sort of obvious that I needed to do it. And it lived up to the hype. It was as crazy and technical as I had thought it would be. The community behind it's pretty awesome as well. Everyone is so stoked to be out there on this super, super burly course. I have so much credit, or so much kudos to give to all the people that finished that race. It's a crazy course. There are no easy Ks. It's awesome. Yeah.
People talk about the challenge of a race like the goat. When you say burly, I mean, can you describe it further? I mean, obviously you're running super fast, but for your average human being, what are you looking at?
I think what makes it burly is just the underfoot. It's not super steep. I mean, there are a few sections that are pretty steep, but it doesn't have the most elevation gain of a race that's 20K. It's not the steepest race that I've ever run, is what I'm saying. But it was like K for K, the most technical trail that I've ever run. So the trail is extremely rutted out from all the rain in that area. And so it was a little slippery. The track has these like slippery, steep mud sections that you have to navigate up. And if you take the wrong path up, it's almost impossible. So you have to backtrack and then go up a different way. So it's just really slow going. And then, of course, there are lots of boulders that you have to hop over and navigate through. And then there are plenty of river crossings and stream crossings. So all of it, it's really remote, a really remote area as well. So there aren't any aid stations on the course. There are plenty of marshals, but if you need to drop out in the middle of the race, it'd be tough. It's pretty committing. So that's what adds to the allure of that race, though.
That sounds incredible. It's a legendary. I mean, the legendary gets thrown around a lot in trail running. Everything's legendary, everything's epic. But certainly a race like the GOAT it has that status within the community. What was it like racing Ryan Carr? I mean, he's won the GOAT.
Yeah. He, of course, was very humble beforehand and said that he was in bad shape and he hadn't been running. But his lifestyle is he's an active person, so he's out herding sheep in the mountains all day. So it was really fun. I was a little surprised. He was descending a lot faster than I was on the day. And I was able to put a little bit of time on him on the climbs, but he would just make it all back on a descent. And I think he's familiar with the course, so he sort of knew maybe which path to take that was a little more efficient. But he was having a great race, and that was fun to sort of have a challenge with him going back and forth a little bit. So it was really exciting to race him, actually, because we had raced at the World Champs, but he kind of had COVID beforehand, so he wasn't maybe in top form. So it was cool to be out here in sort of his home turf, given that he's raced the GOAT before and he's so familiar with that kind of terrain. So it was.
When did you know you had it?
There was no moment that maybe going up Mama's Mile, because I looked back and I saw that I had just enough that I would have to have started to go pretty slow up the last K or whatever. that stretches up the road. But I mean, I thought I had it maybe even halfway through or with like 5K to go, but I looked back and he was right there on my heels. So I had no confidence until the very end that I would win that race because he wasn't letting me have it easy for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was tough.
And so look, let's walk it back a bit. So I mean, this is you're a representative of the New Zealand mountain running team, 6 at the VK Sky Running World Champs. A slew of like super gnarly races, podiums. What was your first taste of running growing up?
It was in Wellington. I joined the Wellington Scottish Harriers when I was 12, and I think it was right after the 2008 Olympics when Nick Willis won a silver in the 1500. Since been bumped up to silver and probably gold because the 2 guys in front of him were busted doping. But anyway, that inspired me to get into running, and it was right before I went to secondary school at St. Pat's Town in Wellington, and I played rugby up until that point, and as you can imagine, I was a tiny kid and was getting pummeled playing rugby, so running was a better fit for me. And once I started, I was pretty hooked. And no mountain running, no trail running. It was all cross country, track and field. But I was obsessed. I would read books like Kiwis Can Fly about Rod Dixon, John Walker, Dick Quox. I love the history of running. And yeah, it was something that I pursued sort of track and field, cross country for the next sort of 10 years. So from 13 to 23, I was just track and field, cross country. And then eventually found trail running. But yeah, that was my start in running, was running around Wellington, doing local races, like competing for St. Pat's, track and field and everything. So yeah, that was my start.
Wellington has such a strong Harrier culture, such a strong running club culture. And I mean running club not in the 2026 vernacular where you're, drinking a craft beer and running a 5K, in the classic sense. What do you think lends Wellington to having such a strong running culture?
It's a good question because Wellington as a town kind of sucks I mean, there's nowhere flat to run unless you're on the harbour, but it's always windy. So it's tough. Maybe just because it's a tough place to train that you just lends itself to some people that are ready to grit it out on race day, which lends itself to some better results. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is just the culture, the history of it all, from the, Upper Hutt, Lower Hutt to Wellington, there's just such a history of great runners coming out of that area. And I think also I was lucky to have a really great coach in Wellington. That was he coached through Scottish Harriers, a guy named Don, and yeah, it was just a fun time. I mean, if nothing else, it was just really exciting and fun to be a runner at that time. It was easy for me to make friends through running, and when all your mates are runners, it's fun to go out for a run every day with them. So yeah, that's what made it enjoyable.
And speaking of that Harrier culture, you mentioned before that you hadn't been onto, I'm not saying you hadn't necessarily been onto a trail, but you weren't interested or you weren't doing trail running or anything like that. And I think that's a really notable thing, that we get stuck in a little kind of, our aperture can get quite narrow when we think about what we enjoy as a sport or a hobby or a culture or whatever. And that there's a bunch of runners in Wellington who probably aren't going up Skyline every chance they get. They're doing intervals at Newton Track or doing whatever. It's
Yeah.
Was there such the question I'm trying to ask you, was there such a sort of intersection there within the like the club scene, the trail runners and the road runners, or was it more kind of mixed?
It seemed pretty mixed actually. I mean, I remember there were local mountain runs that would happen in Wellington that I never took part in, but they seem pretty akin to cross country. They're very similar. And even some of the cross country races that I remember racing back in the day were pretty hilly and basically trail races. They wouldn't be on some, especially in the States, because the cross country races here are super flat and super fast. But I remember jumping over fences in New Zealand and running through mud, and it was pretty slow going at times. And in Wellington, they have a race called the Missoula Shield cross country race, and that's basically just a short trail run. It's super steep, super hilly. So, yeah. And I remember a lot of the mountain runners on Scottish areas would also run cross country and track. So it all sort of like blended in. It was one of the same. Even though I never took part in any mountain running races, I was definitely doing a lot of trail runs back in the day without really knowing it. Running around Mount Vic, it's just trail running. But at the time, I didn't think of it as trail running. It was just
called it running.
Just running, yeah. Exactly.
And what turned your head finally?
Man, well, it was this Achilles tendonitis injury that I had for over a year in college. And I was ready to just call it quits on running completely. But the area that I was in, so I went to college in a rural town in southern Colorado, in the San Luis Valley. And they're surrounded by 4,000 meter peaks in this valley. And this Achilles injury just sort of forced me to stop running for a long time, and I was looking for something else to do. And one summer, I just decided to go for a bunch of hikes in the mountains around the area, and found that I enjoyed that a lot more. And it was giving me a bit of satisfaction as well. Like, the accomplishment of climbing a mountain was something that I was looking for, some sort of validation or like a feeling of accomplishment. And hiking in the mountains gave me that same feeling as racing. Sort of getting to the top of a peak was just as validating as finishing a 5K on the track. And so that was pretty awesome. And then the cross country season started, and my Achilles injury was still pretty present. I basically couldn't do workouts. I could do some easy runs, but I couldn't work out at all. And yeah, I just decided to quit. I was on a team at Adams State University, is where I went to school. And I decided to quit the team and just decided to be a student as opposed to a student athlete, and just started hiking and slowly ventured into running in the mountains. And slowly I started to learn about trail running and racing and what that all meant. And yeah, it's just kind of been a snowball effect from there. I've just completely consumed my life at this point. I can't imagine not running in the mountains now. So I'm glad I found it, sort of just by chance. Yeah.
And did you go to Colorado on a running scholarship, or that's what you went to do, is to train? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had already been living in the States at that point, because I left New Zealand in 2010, and when I was 14. So I was already living in the States, but then I knew I wanted to run at the collegiate level. And so yeah, that was the dream, sort of to keep chasing the running dream. So I went to university here and ran for Adams State. And what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, well, anyway, yeah, I only ran at that university for 2 years before that Achilles injury kind of took me out. So yeah, and then I finished my degree and everything, but yeah, after college I just pursued running. I didn't want to get a real job or anything like that. Yeah.
I mean, kudos to you for that. Kudos to you for pursuing the dream. That must have been quite a, America's a big place, and there's lots of, I'm guessing, lots of competition to get onto, collegiate teams, or to go and pursue that dream of, maybe Olympic glory or, diamond circuit or whatever. Was that a blow for your kind of confidence or your identity when you had this injury?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was because that's sort of what I had identified as for the longest time was a runner, and the dream was to make it to the Olympics maybe or reach that level in some way. And slowly over time, I just realized that I didn't have the capacity, I guess, to train. I saw what it took basically to run fast enough to be at that level, and I kind of realized that I just didn't have the genetics for it. I didn't have it in me to do that. Whereas I found in trail running and mountain running, I have sort of this like skill set on technical trails or in the mountains that means that I can compete at a high level. But I don't have the same like biomechanics or running economy to run really fast on the track. So yeah, when my Achilles was just completely buggered for so long, it was a bit of a, I had to sort of I don't know if reinvent myself is the right way to put it, but I had to find something else because that's all I was. I was just a runner, and that's what I identified as. Um, and so I kind of had to think about what I really wanted out of life. And I was super, super lucky that I was in an area that was surrounded by mountains, because that was exactly what I needed. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah. So super, super lucky.
I mean, you're going from Wellington, which is relatively hilly, in terms of a city in Aotearoa, to, like you said, 4,000-foot peaks around you. That must have been, you look up and then you continue to look up. What was it like taking those first sort of footsteps into those really big hills?
It was like stepping into a completely different world. Because I'd never climbed a mountain before, and I'd done a few backpacking trips with my school back in New Zealand when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. But it was completely foreign to me. And I actually remember distinctly one time when I had first gone to school, like my first year in college. I remember looking up at those 4,000-meter peaks and thinking that no one had ever climbed them because they looked so impossibly tall and steep and jagged and everything else. And it's funny to think back now because they're actually very popular climbs and people climb them all the time in the summer. But yeah, my view was small back then. And I think that added to it because it felt so different and unique from what I was used to. And because my Achilles was so messed up and I was looking for something maybe to like re-identify myself with, that was just the perfect fit because it was something so different, so new. I didn't know anything about it, and it was a really exciting time to be learning all this new stuff all at once. And there's nothing quite like being in the mountains. It's pretty special. For anyone that's climbed a peak, they know what that feeling is like. You get up and you have this crazy vista and this huge sense of accomplishment. And it's just so special to be up there. So it was, I look back on that time, that was sort of in 2017 when I was doing that. And it was so, so exciting. I remember one morning waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to go hike a peak. And I was just so stoked. I remember waking up at 4 in the morning and I was like so jazzed to just get up and go. And I hadn't felt that way maybe ever in my life. I've never been excited to wake up at 4 in the morning, but for climbing a peak, I was just so excited to get up and go. So that was a good sign. I was like, oh, this is the thing that makes me excited to get out of bed. So this is the thing that I should pursue. Yeah.
I see here, as a citizen journalist, I've done quote unquote a bit of research, and you're talking about your favorite kind of running media was that film, and it's an old film, it's an old video, and it's shot. It's Kilian Jornet and Anton Krupicka running up the Grand Teton and passing all those people who are like, and that's sort of I'm older than you, obviously. That's sort of my era of golden age trail running media moments. And Anna Frost was in the mix there too. She was in the video down at the bottom. I think he passed her, but that was the thing with, it's interesting your parallel because I think about Anton Krupicka, who was a real touchstone. He was doing that sort of around the same time when his leg was broken too. He wasn't sort of running per se. I mean, he was in that video, but he was hiking up mountains. It's amazing how people, if they get injured sometimes, can sort of put a full stop on what they're doing, but that ability to pivot to something else, I think, is super important also.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's tough too because it's easy to, I had a lot of people in my corner at that time when I was considering quitting the team, telling me that, just wait it out, these things happen, but I think I'm like too I hate being so immobile. Like I need to be moving constantly. And it was cool in a way because I was forced to figure something else out. I couldn't just twiddle my thumbs, wait for my Achilles to finally come around. I knew that I just needed to find something different and I needed to find it right away. And I think I did. I, again, was just lucky that I found myself in that area at that time when I could venture out into the mountains and figure it out. I don't know what I would have done if I had gone to a school in Kansas or Nebraska. Yeah, who knows what I would have fallen into. Maybe like art or something completely different. But yeah, I just really, really so lucky that that's what I found. So yeah,
I mean, there's an intersection there between getting out in the mountains and doing all this stuff and art, right? Like there's so many different streams, and I think again, and not to compare it to that American collegiate system. And you're not the first athlete that we've had on Dirt Church Radio from Aotearoa who's been through the American collegiate system, and through dint of injury or cultural kind of a rub there, has struggled in some way with that system. Not to say it's a bad system, but it has, kind of bumped really hard up against it. What does your life look like now in terms of your running life and how that kind of guides your day-to-day?
Yeah, well, it's the sort of view it as the most important part of my day. It's the thing that I look forward to the most. So in the summer, it's definitely a lot of time I spend just camping in a different mountain range. I like to explore new places, and I also, if I have a race in that area, I'll try to be out there early, exploring the track and everything before I race. So it's sort of in the summer, it's like wake up at 6, make some coffee, and then go for some 4 or 5 hour mountain run. And then spend the rest of the day reading a book or something. That's like the best part of summer. The reality is a lot of the time I'm traveling, sort of living out of a suitcase in Europe or something like that. A little bit less glamorous, but equally as exciting. And it's a huge privilege to get to go over to Europe and race and sort of live out that dream of mine. But right now, it's more like I'll wake up, I'll do a bit of online work, and then in the afternoons I go and ski tour in the mountains here. So it's sort of like more of I don't race very much this time of year. I just do a lot of sort of call it like base training. So for the next 3 or 4 months, while the mountains have a bunch of snow, I'll just go ski touring in the afternoons for a few hours. Maybe throw on some cycling here and there, but for the most part, it's just building this aerobic engine. And I try not to travel at all this time of year. New Zealand was certainly an exception, and one that I hope to do at least once a year from here on out. So, yeah, but the next few months I'll just be laying low, staying in Missoula, trying to get as many hours in as possible. Sort of that's the goal in the winter. Yeah.
There'll be lots of runners listening to this who've just taken their headphones off, thrown them on the ground, and discussed that you've mentioned an off season or cross training. It's something. Yeah. Have you noticed that in New Zealand we don't seem to do that? Like runners, just like run all year.
Oh yeah. Well, it's also the weather's a bit nicer here in Missoula. If you want to run year round, you're just going to be running on some. Well, if you want to run on the trails, at least it's just going to be snowy. It's not going to be very fun. So yeah, I bet if I lived in Wellington, I would be a year. Oh, I don't know. No, I bet even if I lived in Wellington, I would just probably bike all winter long. I wouldn't, because I think I need that mental break from running every now and then, or just that competitive switch to turn off.
Such an interesting point. Do you, if it's such an interesting point, because that's the thing, isn't it? We get obsessed with this thing that we do, and then you hear it when runners get to the start of races and they've either completely buggered up their taper because they've gone, they put some big kind of volume or big missions before the race, or they're burnt out and a bit injured. What would you say your ratio of kind of running as a professional athlete versus kind of cross training or just doing other things is on a 12-month kind of time frame?
I would say that I spend the months of May through October racing. So that's like the chunk in the heart of my racing season, which is very long. And I would say from like May till October, I'm usually trying to fire on all cylinders as often as I can. I probably try to race at least once a month, maybe twice a month. So you're kind of constantly tapering and then training and trying to fit in training when you can. And because of that, it does make those from November until April really important to just take a step back, try to get in as much quality volume as you can. At least I found. So I don't really do any workouts, and I just do as much volume as I can. Switch off the mental stress of trying to get a bunch of good sleep, the mental stress of trying to be sharp for a race. And I just give myself the grace of like, I get to hang out with friends, be a little bit more normal, but also train as much as I possibly can. But then from May through October, I'm kind of like a single-minded, focused athlete trying to compete at a high level. But for me, I need that break just to chill out, drink some beers with mates, be a little bit more normal for a little bit of time, not stress too much about life. Just mentally switch off is the way I would phrase it.
Perfect. Mentally refresh. Lots of people won't understand because people kind of align trail running with ultra marathons, and now it's 100 miles is the new half marathon because everyone wants to do this
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't race ultra marathons. You are a mountain running guy. Tell me about what your race season looks like. What are the races that you're going to, and generally the conditions and the times?
So yeah, the racing that I do is definitely the longest race that I'll run. It would be the marathon distance, so 40-ish Ks. But typically those races would, take me 5 or 6 hours because they involve maybe 3,000 or 4,000 meters of climbing. So super mountainous. But then on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes I do races that are less than 10 Ks long. They have 1,000 meters of climbing. So there's sort of a spectrum. But at the end of the day, it's all kind of the same training. So I can sort of jump between the two. So this summer I'll be doing one race that I'm really stoked for, is a race in Alaska called Mount Marathon, which is only a 5K, but it has maybe 1,500 meters of climbing ish. So it's just straight up this mountain in Alaska called Mount Marathon, and just go up and down, and it's 5Ks. And that race should only take me 40 or 50 minutes. So compared to a lot of the other races that I've done in the past, it'll be really short. But I'm extremely excited for that because it's famous, notorious Killian Jornates run it, lots of legends. And so that'll be sort of the first major race that I run. That'll be 4th of July. And then I've got a slew of other races in the US. Like I think I might run this UTMB race here called Speed Goat. There's also a UTMB race in Canada called Whistler. There's a Sky Race in Canada called the Minotaur, Meet the Minotaur, which is an epic 30K true mountain race in the Rockies, the Canadian Rockies. and I'm sort of still deciding whether or not to do like a full Skyrunning World Series season, which would mean that I would do a few trips over to Europe this year as well. And that would mean racing 4 times over in Europe, which would be like combination of races in France and in Spain, sort of where all the sky races are, in Italy. And yeah, I think one big thing that I'm trying to do this year is race a mountainous 100K. So stepping into the ultra world is something I'm interested in, because eventually I would really like to qualify for CCC. So I'm hoping that I can do a race this year that'll qualify me for CCC next year. And I think I'll do that 100K at that Whistler by UTMB race in Canada. Might do the 100K there because it sort of suits my style. It's got, I think 6,000 meters of climbing, 7,000 meters of climbing over 100K. So sort of right up my alley. Can do a lot more hiking than running in that race. Yeah, I don't really have my season 100% panned out, but I know for sure that I'll be running Mount Marathon and a mountainous 100K at some point. So, yeah.
Are you going to do the traditional Mount Marathon unofficial uniform of like black dolphin shorts and gloves?
I don't know if I'll wear gloves, but I'll definitely be shirtless. I did a race in Alaska last year, and I sort of went the traditional route of black shorts, shirtless, and it worked out. So, yeah. I love the Alaskan mountain running scene. It's very, very old school. Exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah.
It has that vibe, isn't it? For those who don't know, like go and Google or go look on YouTube for Mount Marathon, and it's like almost like a Kepler or the Goat or the whole mountains out. Hey, it's everyone, like the person who's checking your bags at the hotel or wherever you're staying, you're seeing them up the mountain, they're marshalling you. You know, everyone turns out. It's so grassroots.
It is cool. And Seward, Alaska is the town that it takes place in. And it's also a really popular destination for cruise ships. And so you get not only the people of Seward there in the races, but like 4,000 people just in town randomly for 4th of July weekend. Because 4th of July is America's like Independence Day, and so people go crazy, set off fireworks, and have a big party. So yeah, it'll be crazy.
That'd be quite that would be quite the clash of cultures, isn't it? Your Alaskan kind of mountain people versus your cruise ship class, and both looking at the other thinking like, gosh,
two worlds collide. Definitely,
two worlds collide.
Yeah.
I think more people would get injured during that race, but because you see some full scenes, eh?
Yeah, it looks gnarly. They do require you pre-run the course before you race it, so I think that gives people a little bit more confidence to send it fully on the downhill, so you sort of know what you're expecting. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's always some people who break bones and get some gnarly scars, scrapes and stuff. Yeah. That's all part of the fun.
All part of the fun. What is the scene for in Europe? You know, the popular consciousness is, or the media consciousness is UTMB, and that's the thing that everyone kind of looks towards, and the affiliate races therein. What's the Skyrunning World Series like? What's the vibe? You know, you're turning up. Are there people there? Are there people hyped, or is it more kind of low key?
It does always depend on the race, because some of the races are pretty classic. You've got races like Sky Race de Mathesins in France, Trofeo Kima in Italy. These are all races. Sobrascobio in Spain. Those races are sort of classic sky races that have been around for years. And so in those at those races, you get this like crazy community showing up to cheer you on. So you might be on a remote ridgeline, but you've got 1,000 people up there cheering for you. It's a really wild experience, actually. It's totally unique and different from anything I've experienced in New Zealand or in the US. And so that's really fun. But you also, on the flip side of things, you get sky races that are lesser established, lesser well known, that are still in the World Series, but just don't have quite as much maybe community support, or people just don't know that it's going on. But there are a handful of races in Europe that just people go ballistic for it. It's like the whole town just shuts down for the week or the weekend, and just everyone shows up for those races. They're cheering you on. It's wild to see. I've been to some of these races, and I'll go the week before, and it's this tiny little town in Italy or something, and no one's there. It feels really quiet. And then all of a sudden on race day, there's like 5,000 people there just going nuts for you. So it's a really, really cool experience. Kind of like Zagama's probably the most classic example of that, where you just have people lining the trail cheering for you. So it's really cool. But not every sky race is like that. It's a little bit of a mix. But if you sign up for one of those classic ones, it's a scene. It's crazy. Yeah.
You said before that you read about Dick Wax, Rod Dixon. There was such a savagery to what those guys did, eh? And Rod Dixon's famous quote is one of my favorite running, like train like an animal and drink beer or something like that. Like that was his just. I mean, you live in the dream, really, aren't you? You're essentially you are turning up, training like an animal, and then spending it, and then rinse, repeat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think a lot of my inspiration comes from those guys, those Kiwi runners back in the 70s and 80s, because they were really, I mean, when you think about it, they were really punching above their weight to be, John Walker running 3:49 in the mile back then against these fully sponsored Europeans. It's just so cool. And then on top of it, that classic quote by Rod Dixon, I just want to drink beer and train like an animal, or whatever way it goes. That's the kind of I take a lot of inspiration from that style of things. I'm not super into technology and like running on treadmills and high carb fueling. I really like the nitty gritty style of racing, and although maybe I would benefit if I trained a little more strategically like that, I think I just wouldn't be as happy, and therefore wouldn't race as well. I just need that like old school mentality of just train hard, be hard, race hard. I like that so much. Yeah.
Do you know LCD Sound System?
Oh yeah, I love that band. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's that line in that song. He says, "I wouldn't trade one stupid decision for another 5 years of life." And I wonder sometimes, I get a little bit disheartened with like what you've spoken about is train hard when you need to train hard, be disciplined when you need to be disciplined, be and the motivation with that is it's obviously it's intrinsic, it's not an extrinsic. But we get so curated. You're so right. Everything is kind of this, everything has to be this, and we get so granular with everything. Like, talk me through high carb fueling. That's another one. Who would have thought that we need that much carbohydrates? And then 5 years ago, we were all doing low carb, high fat, and
yeah,
I can't keep up.
Yeah, there's always something new, and that's the thing. I think I found that over time, I've obviously experimented with a whole lot of different things, and I found what works for me and what keeps me excited. Because I think one thing that people underestimate is the motivation and the psyche for running needs to be high all the time, especially if you're competing year round. And if you're constantly adding these, I sort of view things like going to the weight room, making sure that your nutrition is always dialed. All those little things are just little added stressors in your life. And I find that if I'm constant, there's a time and a place for it for sure. But I find that if I'm constantly thinking about those things, stressing about them, trying to incorporate them into my day-to-day life and training, then I just get mentally burnt out so quickly. And so that's where I sort of find the simple, old school, whatever you want to call it, style of training to be so much more beneficial for myself, is because I can just get out the door, run for a few hours. Maybe I'll feel like crap, maybe I'll feel great. It doesn't matter. I'll just get it in, and that's that. So yeah, like there's a time and a place to worry about nutrition and everything else, but I just find that it's mentally exhausting for me to think about it all the time, and it's already mentally exhausting to run 160 Ks a week. So you don't have to like add all this other stuff to your life. And if you look at it, people were running incredibly fast in 1970s and the 80s, and like we're a little bit faster now, but at the end of the day, it's I'd be pretty stoked to run a 3:49 mile like John Walker did. So, and he ate, I think, there's an odd story if he had like fish and chips the night before winning the 1500 at the Olympics. So these things aren't as important as we make them out to be. And I think the thing is that there's just a lot of money to be made from companies selling these products. So they're pushing it hard.
How do you navigate life? That's the thing. Someone once said, we know the world isn't flat. And I apologize if there's anyone who thinks that the world is flat. So listen to Dirt Church Radio. It's not. And the one thing that I know that the world isn't flat because humans haven't found a way to monetize going to the edge of the world. If
great,
there's a way to monetize something, we will.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you navigate that? You're a professional trail runner. You are someone who, it's results based. You obviously have the support. You were the last Sportiva?
Yes, yeah.
Yep. So you were the last Sportiva. Results matter, performances matter, and selling yourself more than ever matters on the anxiety rectangle. How do you navigate it?
It's tough because there are a lot of expectations put on you, not only from sponsors, but other people. I've had so many conversations with folks telling me that, oh, why don't you get a sock sponsorship and a gel sponsorship and these things? And just because I don't, I don't believe in it. I don't care what socks that I wear. I don't care what kind of gels. Like before the Goat, I was joking with Maya Flint. She was asking me what gels I got, and I just said that I don't know. I just went to Rebel Sport the day before and got whatever gel they had, because it's all the same stuff. It's all maltodextrin, fructose, whatever. It's all there's really no special formula, in my opinion. Other people would obviously argue me forever on that, but that's how I feel. So I don't know. I think it's again, like I've just been in the sport long enough to know what works for me. I've seen myself having success doing it this way. And I've also met so many people that, they don't worry about that stuff either, and they have plenty of success. So for every person online telling you that you need to do something a certain way, there's someone else having just as much success that isn't doing it, and they're just not talking about it online. We just get caught in this echo chamber. Yeah.
Listen to what the man said, people. This is the thing. Yeah, you're exactly right. But do you know Ben Duffus?
No.
Australian runner. Ali and I were chatting to him at Ultra Trail Australia. We had him up for a panel, and he said he mentioned high carb. He's the same thing. He said, back in this, when I was growing up in Sydney run clubs or wherever, the guys would go do a brutal track workout and they'd drink half a can of Coke before, then they'd have half a Mars bar. During the workout, they'd have the other half, and that worked out to about 160 grams of carbs. In that hour, and that's high carb fueling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you turned up to a race with like Coke and Mars bars, you'd be
definitely
run out of town on a wire.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, one of the first Sky races I ever ran internationally, I just had 3 Snickers bars was my fueling strategy. And the only reason I don't use it anymore is because the Snickers bars all froze because it was so cold up there. But otherwise, I reckon Snickers bars, Mars bars, they're some of the best fueling for endurance sports. That and Coke, it's, nothing quite like it. Like, I just did this bike trip and I probably ate 100 Snickers bars in the 2 weeks that I was out there because they're just perfect. They taste good. I don't get sick of them. If I was doing that and trying to do it with gels or something, I'd be puking. That would be so gross.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah.
And let's just put that out there. Universally, those things, they work. and you need them. And at the same time, everyone's had that experience where you've just squozen that little sachet into your mouth and you're like, oh, what am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
doing? I think about, you hear runners like one of the people who did the backyard and did really, really well had to go to the doctor because they had oral thrush from taking so much sugar.
Oh man, that's brutal.
It's so brutal.
Yeah, that's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And how good like Coke is in your day to day. It's something you need to moderate, right? You need to perhaps moderate your Coke intake, but during a race, such the dopamine hit you get as well from you get the sugar and the caffeine, but just the reward, that's perfect. It's incredible. Yeah. Tell me about Missoula, man. What's it like living in we were talking before, about Mike Foot's yurt and that I think it's famous, that famous running movie In the Bitterroots where Mike Foot's living in a yurt and doing all that. What's it like living there?
It's pretty special. It's there's a huge community of trail runners here. So I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Peterman and Jeff Mogavero, Jen Lichter and Erin Clark. They're all professional runners that live in Missoula. And on top of that, there are so many other absolute crushers in Missoula that aren't sponsored professional athletes, but just really, really get after it. And so it's a community that has all these great runners, but the environment I found to be really positive. I think I've actually never lived in a major city in the States, but I think I've been to an area like Salt Lake City or Boulder, Colorado, which are these famous meccas for endurance sports. And I've always found that there's a little bit of a toxic environment surrounding the endurance cultures there. A bit of like a one-upsmanship all the time. Or this feeling of needing to do something badass, needing to do something hard all the time to sort of prove your worth in those towns. But in Missoula, I've never felt that way, and everyone is so supportive. So the community here is awesome. And I've had such a good time training with people here, and it pushes me to be better, and also pushes me to be a good person, not just a good athlete, which is really helpful. I think just keeps you grounded, keeps you honest, keeps you in reality. And then on top of that, Missoula is surrounded by 3 different mountain ranges. We've got the Sapphire Range, the Mission Range, and the Bitterroot Range, which you were talking about earlier. And you just get some of the most wild, spectacular adventures in those areas. You just have to carry bear spray because there are lots of grizzlies. But I've had such a good time training in those mountains that feel pretty untouched by just the world around us. There's one small ski area close to us, but it is pretty small, and so there's nothing that's really built up. There are no trams or anything. Like, it's the complete opposite of Chamonix, France. It's awesome. Yeah. So getting to train here is really special, and it is nice too, because in the summers it's sunny and warm, and in the winters it's snowy and cold. So it is nice to switch it up in the season and just ski for a few months, and then the spring rolls around and the snow melts and you get to run in the mountains. So it's cool. You get to sort of see them in two different ways. Yeah.
Growing up in Wellington, savaged by a pukeko, maybe an errant seal. You're having a bad day if a seal gets up onto the waterfront and has to chase you. What's it like? You've been in the States a long time. The thing with Montana, I always remember that you've got a rattlesnake wilderness.
Oh yeah, the rattlesnake.
So
I don't think there are any rattlesnakes in the rattlesnake wilderness, but yeah, they just call it.
The point I'm making, you're like, all right, everyone, don't care what gel you use, it's not important, but always pack your bear spray. What's it like living in a place where there's like big carnivores that will kill you on a trail run?
I mean, it hasn't really affected. I still go out by myself and run in the mountains all the time. You just have to be a little bit more cautious. Like, I sort of know the areas where there might be bears. 3 through living here for so long, you kind of get to understand the area. Like there are some places where I would never worry about it. And then there are some parts where I'm, on my toes. And I always sing this song. I don't know what it's called, but it goes like, I was sing like, I'm coming up. I want a bit to know. I'll just like sing that over and over again as I'm running up this trail. Because if you're by yourself, you need to like make noise, not to startle a bear or something. So I'll do that, and I'll carry bear spray. And so far, it's worked out. I haven't had any bad encounters. I've seen grizzlies, and I've passed them on the trail, and black bears, but never had them bother me. So yeah, I'm not. I've had friends that have been charged by bears and stuff. So it's definitely a reality, but I haven't had that yet.
When you say pass a grizzly bear on a trail, what are we talking? What are we talking in terms of meters here? And how fast are we going?
Well, we started to walk because just sort of like once you see it, you don't want to do anything to cause alarm. So we just sort of just walked. I was with my girlfriend at the time, so I was with someone else, and we were just chatting away, making noise. And we were probably maybe 10 meters from the bear. It was two grizzlies were just like up on the slope of the trail to our right, and they were just eating some berries, and they looked at us and we looked at them, and we just sort of walked on by. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty casual. I don't think, they don't want to attack you. They'll only do it if they feel threatened. So trail runners it's a little bit dangerous because if you're running around a sharp corner or switchback or something, and all of a sudden then you're going to cause alarm. So mountain bikers, trail runners do have to use a little bit more caution. The biggest thing is just to let yourself be known. So singing, maybe playing music. I wouldn't advocate for playing music while you're like playing music aloud while you're running by yourself, because it's like nature, try to be quiet. But
exactly. It's just an affront against nature.
Yeah.
You deserve to be attacked by a bear if you're playing music.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's honestly, it's pretty rare that I would run into a grizzly. I spent, I don't even know how many Ks running in the mountains in Montana this summer, but I ran into a grizzly once. So, yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it can happen. You just got to know what to do. And it's not that complicated. Just be loud, have bear spray. Don't do anything stupid like chase a bear or run away. Just walk, be casual. Don't freak it out. You'll be fine.
So counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you want to just freak out and run away.
Huge animal. Don't run away from it. Okay, cool. Yeah. Man, so I guess finally, you've been so generous with your time. What is this? It's Friday afternoon where you are. It's Saturday morning where I am. What's the weekend got in store for you?
Actually, it'll be exciting. I'm going to go ski touring with my mate Adam. We're going to go into the Mission Mountain Range and ski a peak up there called East St. Mary's, and it should be fun. The snow conditions here have been really safe for backcountry skiing because we haven't had a lot of snow in quite a while. So there aren't any risks of avalanches currently, so we can kind of get up higher and get out of the resort and do a little bit more adventuring up high. So that'll be really fun. We'll do that tomorrow morning. And then Sunday, just might go for an easy run here, lay low, so that'll be a big day on Saturday.
So
be excited.
When you say ski the backcountry, are you so you're hiking up and then you're skiing back down?
Yeah. So we'll hike up with the skis on our feet, sort of have like a touring setup. Skin up, yeah. Skin up the peak. There might be some sections where we'll have to boot pack because it'll be too steep. And then ski down the way we came up, more or less. Try to find as much snow as we can. I think it'll be pretty bare and maybe snow free the sort of lower third of the mountain because it's been pretty dry winter so far. But that's what we'll be doing.
And is that a 4 a.m. get up?
No, probably not. I mean, the sun now doesn't rise until 8 o'clock here, right. So We can wait. We can sleep in a little bit. We'll probably leave here at like 5 or 6 or something like that. And it's about an hour's drive to get to that base of that mountain. So, yeah.
Man, and that sounds like amazing training that's not really training, hey?
That's the thing.
recreating.
Yeah. You'll be out for, 5 or 6 hours and you get this huge training stimulus, but it doesn't feel like training at all. It just feels like adventuring with your mates. It's so fun. And that's what I view the winter as. It's just getting outside and just having fun. Doing it as much as possible, doing lots of hours, but just unstructured, just fun in the mountains. That's what it's all about. And you do build a lot of skills too. There's a lot of added strength from being in the mountains that translates to mountain running later in the summer. So sort of like strength work in disguise, having to like lift your skis over up a fallen down tree or something like that. Little things that help. Yeah.
Man, that all goes in the pot. Jackson, you've been so generous and inspiring and warm. Thank you very much. Ask you the same question we ask everyone who comes on Dirt Church Radio, and that's Jackson Cole. What's been your greatest run ever?
Ever? There's such a hard one, but I'm gonna go with a run I did in the Bitterroot Mountains in Montana. It's just south of us. It's a route called the Bitterroot Grand Traverse, also known as the High Five, and it climbs 5 different mountains in the Bitterroot Range in this perfect circle. And it was my favorite run ever, just because it's remote. It's in the wilderness. There's lots of bushwhacking, and it's an amazing way to connect peaks and be in the mountains. That was my favorite because it's also really challenging. It's easy to get lost. So it's like all encompassing. It's just, it includes navigation, trail running, climbing. It's everything I want out of a mountain run. So yeah, the Bitterroot High Five. That's my answer.
You hit, don't blow up the spot.
Yeah.
Perfect. Although, I mean, it's not like...
I don't recommend anyone just goes out and does it, but that area is really, really cool. Yeah.
So some bells on you. Jackson, thank you so much, man. I wish you every success for the season. I hope you enjoy Mount Marathon, and thank you for the awesome korero on Dirt Church Radio, man. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me, mate. It was good to chat.
Dirt Church Radio is presented by me, Matt Raymond, with Ali Pottinger and Andrew McDowell. We're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It really helps. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, and you can email us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Now, don't forget to sign up to our Substack for a weekly newsletter and aid station podcast. And don't forget to write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too. Thank you to our supporters, Further Faster and Merrill, and our Substack subscribers in the DCR aid station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up. Mate wa.